Miss Ursprung was born in Switzerland. She studied in Bern and Berlin. She has extensive experience with prominent theaters in Basel, Hamburg, Darmstadt, and elsewhere. And she's done purely musical projects with the Hamburg Symphony Orchestra and the Lucerne Festival. Greetings. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, just from the get-go, by asking how you first came to collaborate with Patricia.
We got a friend in common. He's a director as well, and I was working with him, some years ago. And she was asking him if he knows somebody who would work with her for this vision of the project by Beethoven. Then it was not by Beethoven because it had no title.
Okay.
But she had this. She was looking for a scenic concert, and she wanted to have somebody to work with her in the conceptual part. And I was working in Hamburg before with some orchestras, and that's why our friend recommended me.
Okay, so you were already working with the Hamburg Symphony at the time that Patricia approached you?
I was working with Jeffrey Tate.
Jeffrey Tate?
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So then you say that Patricia was looking for a collaborator, and I wonder, how does the give and take work in terms of obviously you have visions of your own and she has strong ideas about what she wants. How do you meld those two visions?
Yeah, it was work in progress. She gave me a description of her idea, of her feelings about world in classical music. And then we found pictures for it. And it was also, first we were talking just together, just the two of us. And then I was working with a stage designer. I'm working often with Lani Tronduc.
Right.
And with a video designer. And then we started to have this whole, to find these pictures for this whole concert.
So how did Patricia express to you what it was that she was after with by Beethoven? I mean, I said a minute ago it was kind of like a eulogy for the canon, but that's not actually exactly right. And I know it also has to do with her feeling that Beethoven wouldn't want to be this monumental blockage that avoids, or that helps us to avoid contemporary music and contemporary themes. So why don't I be quiet and let you talk about how did she present it to you, and how did you extrapolate from it?
She presented to me the feeling of having a border between her and the audience.
Okay.
And for me, it's important to find pictures that are strong but also poetic. And we were talking a lot about building a wall first, but building a wall would be it's so technical, and if we had different ideas, but the first idea was building a wall with very light material, but this looks not strong.
Right.
Because light material is just, you can blow it away.
Right.
And then we were talking about having like a really heavy material, but when musicians are working on stage with heavy material, it's dangerous for the instruments and for their hands. And I really didn't like the idea of having an accident or something on stage. And then we were searching for a magical moment. But not only magical, it should be strong, and it should be with force and power. And so we invented a wall, a really big wall. It's even bigger actually than here, because the Libbey Bowl is not. It's just very different.
Right. Sure.
Of our first place where we played this concert.
Sure.
And so here is a little smaller. But we had a really, really big wall, and it's even big here, so it works here. And we had this idea of playing the concert, violin concert of Beethoven.
Right.
And to have this moving that is not seen actually in the first moment. So the wall is moving like 4 minutes, very, very slowly, in the back of the orchestra, and the orchestra, and actually the wall is there for like an hour before.
Right, exactly. So exactly. You sort of don't notice it almost.
The audience shouldn't notice it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
then it's moving.
did I hear correctly in the talk back afterward that originally, or at least in its initial conception, the dress that Pat is wearing at the end was supposed to sort of blend in with the wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
And with the original wall, the dress is really, it's got the same color. It's this rusty material, the red.
Right.
She became the wall.
And she said that was a way of saying that I am equally culpable. This is not just everybody else doing this. I am part of this cultural scenario.
Yeah. She's part of the problem. No, it's hard to say like this, but
right, sure.
We are all part of it.
Right,
actually.
exactly.
And it's important for her not to be over this, not to say I know how it is and I show you the problem. So she wants to be part of the thing.
And as you said too, the strong images, but also poetic images. I mean, the concept of using the finale of the Haydn Farewell Symphony, where everybody leaves the stage, but literally flipping the music and having everybody come on backwards until there's suddenly a population that has developed around her. I mean, what an amazing stroke of theatrical dramaturgy that was. I mean, really, it was remarkable. And at the same time, this sort of, I sensed, perhaps I'm wrong, but I sensed a sort of implied violence and confrontation within the staging of the concerto itself.
Yeah, and for us, she knows we know what we are talking about and why we are doing this, but for us it's also important to give the audience the possibility to find another question in this.
Okay.
So this picture is not only about the concert world, you know. It's about walls and about destroying and about building walls or having of being destroyed of your own borders.
Right.
You know.
And you actually had to do a little bit of thinking on the fly with this staging because one of the original participants was not able to come to Ojai, and so you had to change the ending. I mean, how long did you have to do that? I mean, it was masterful. It was really a brilliant ending. But how long did you have to come up with that?
I think it was 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We had time, and Scott Worthington made for us this ending, this sound.
That sound collage with Scott Worthington, who's a well-known Los Angeles composer and bassist and electronic artist who also participated with Pat out on the lawn in her opening performance of music by Luigi Nono. So hats off to you, Scott.
Yeah, he was very flexible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, talking about dramatic, it doesn't get a lot more dramatic than the Day of Wrath, and I have to say I had seen little video clips of Bye Bye Beethoven, so I had at least a rough idea of what to expect. I have no clue what Dies Irae is going to present as far as stage dramaturgy, so could you walk me again through how this piece came, what the conception process was?
Yeah, actually Dies Irae is more associative than Bye Bye Beethoven because there are more themes in it.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about Day of Judgment, so Dies Irae, and it's actually it's questioning where society is going to. It's talking about war. It's talking about death. Mm-hmm. Yesterday she said the day before yesterday she said to some musicians, don't be tired of dying when you're playing. So it's really, this theme is really important for her, and we have some very powerful but also quite dark pieces in it.
Sure. Well, the juxtaposition alone of the Heinrich Bieber, the Battaglia, with its literal evocations of battle sounds, and then juxtaposing that with George Crumb's very sort of agitated but poetic Black Angels, his response to the Vietnam War. I mean, again, what a remarkable thing to put those things together, and then the Ust-Volskaya. I mean, I don't want to ask you to give away how that is visualized on stage, but just the notion of this phalanx of 8 double basses and the wooden box with the hammer in the middle, and the box, you can't help but thinking this is somewhat casket-like.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, is there a growing call for this kind of theatricalized classical music experience? I mean, I ask because you've done these things with Pat and you've done them with Jeffrey Tate. Is there a growing request for these kinds of things, or are they more artist-driven by people with the vision that Pat has and that Jeffrey has?
Yeah, I feel it's more artist-driven, but there is, we are not the first ones doing things like that. There were always scenic concerts and musicians using the space on stage for telling more than playing music, or using their body as well as an instrument, actually. And but for me it was actually always in the idea of the musicians, but also with me. So
well, and it must be a special kind of challenge for you, I would think, as a theater director and as someone who is used to not only working with the words of others but creating your own words and scripting your own pieces. There must be a very distinct challenge in working literally with no script other than the notes on the page. I mean, how do you even begin to conceptualize what do I do with these pieces of music? Is it just having some strong notion like Bye Bye Beethoven or Dies Irae?
Actually, it's thinking about what are we talking about, so what is this piece going to tell, and then finding a solution with the artist team, finding ideas of how could we show it and not tell it,
Well, it's quite an extraordinary thing, and it makes me wonder. One thing that I didn't see in your resume or your bio is I'm curious if you're at all interested in opera, because there's such a thirst for original thinkers in opera, and I just wondered if that's potentially a next step.
Maybe. I'm interested in opera. My answer is actually I'm interested in opera, but at the moment it's great for me to work with musicians because I'm a writer, as you said, but it's also great to work without words.
Flying without a net.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's really great. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for taking time to walk us through these programs. I really appreciate it. I was just so powerfully moved by Beethoven, and even having been briefed on some of what was going to happen, I knew some of the tricks in advance, and yet being there in the presence of it and watching it go down is a whole other thing. So I thank you for that, and I'm looking very much forward to Dies Irae tonight.